Good morning, dear students. Students, today we will meet in another lesson, that is the birth, from your snapshot book. This is the second part of your lesson, and this lesson will take even 3 segments to be finished, right? So, without getting delay, let's get started. We are not going to make this video much longer, right? So, we are going to get the explanation of this. An hour later, he went upstairs again, noted the progress made, came down once more, sat by the kitchen fire. It was still except for the rustle of a cinder in the grate and slow tick-tock of the wall clock number. There was another sound, the beat of Morgan's footstep as he paced in the street outside. The old woman opposite him sat in her black dress, quite motionless, her eyes strangely alive and wise, probing never leaving his face. Right. So you will have to write the meaning of rustle, R-U-S-T-L-E. Rustle means make a soft sound. Make a soft sound. Meaning of cinder, S-I-N-D-C-I-N-D-E-R. A small piece of partially burnt cold, right? Probing means inquiring closely. As you see, he went upstairs after almost an hour to check upon Mrs. Morgan, and he sat near the kitchen fire upon coming back. It was that time of the night where everything was still. The only sound that came was the ticking clock, Joe's footstep from the outside, and from almost extinguished piece of coal. While he sat in the kitchen, Mrs. Morgan's mother sat in the front of him wearing her black dress. She looked at him constantly with her wise eyes that were filled with awe. Right? His thoughts were heavy, muddled. The episode he had witnessed at Cardiff station still obsessed him moribly. He thought of Bramwell, foolishly devoted to a man who deceived him sordidly, of Edward Page, bound to the service Blodwen of Denny, living unhappily apart from his wife. His reason told him that all these marriages were dismal failures. It was a conclusion which in his present state made him wince. He wished to consider marriage as an idyllic state. Yes, he could not otherwise consider it with the image of Christine before him. Her eyes, shining towards him, admitted no other conclusion. It was the conflict between his level, doubting mind and his overflowing heart which left him resentful and confused. He let overflowing heart which left him resentful and confused. He let his chin sink upon his chest, stretched out his legs, stared broodingly into fire. He remained like this so long, and his thoughts were so filled with Christine that he started when the old woman opposite suddenly addressed him. Her meditation pursued a different course. Right. Susan said not to give her chloroform if it would harm the baby. She's awful set upon his child, doctor's badge. Her old eyes warmed at a sudden thought. She added in a low voice tone, and we all are, I fancy. Right. So write down the meaning of muddled, M-U-D-D-L-E-D, muddled. Right. This meaning will be untidy, morbidly, M-O-R-B-I-D-L-Y, morbidly, in an abnormal or unhealthy manner. Sordidly means meanly selfish, right? Shrewish means bad tempered. Dismal means causing a mood of gloom or depression. Wince means make a slight involuntary grimace. Idyllic means extremely happy, IDYLLIC. means extremely happy. Resentful means feeling bitterness. And broodingly means morbid or even painful memories. Right? Awful means very. So here it's clearly that earlier unpleasant moments with Christine had taken a toll on his mind. He was still being haunted by the incident that took place at Cardiff station. He began thinking of his friends and acquaintances who had had bad experiences in love and marriages. He thought of Bramwell, the woman he loved and cheated on him. He contemplated upon the relationship of Edward Page, who was committed to a dominating woman named Bloodwen. He reflected upon how Denny is living away from his wife not so happily. All of this brought him to an interference that made him cringe. He wished to believe that the institution of marriage was a cheerful one that guaranteed peace and companionship. He also had no other reason to believe otherwise, with Christine's shining eyes in his mind. He was undoubtedly facing a conflict with all his minds, heart and soul in disagreement. Thus, he rested his chin on his chest and pulled out his legs while he glanced at the fireplace. He sat still for a few moments. His mind was still preoccupied with Christine's until the old lady broke her silence. She was thinking about something else. The old lady tells the doctor how worried Susan was on account of this complicated situation. She even refused to have anesthesia if it were to affect the baby. She told him how invested she was in a child. The old lady corrects herself and says that all of them are invested in the child. Her eyes were filled with warmth while she said this. The doctor, preoccupied with another set of worries, somehow cleared his mind and assured that the lady that the anesthetic would do no harm to either of them. He collected himself with an effort. It would not do any harm. The anesthetic, he said kindly, they will be all right. Here the nurse's voice was heard calling from the top landing. Andrew glanced at the clock, which now showed 3:30. He rose and went up to the bedroom. He perceived that he might now begin his work. An hour elapsed. It was a long, harsh struggle. Then, as the first streaks of dawn strayed past the broken edge of the blind, the child was born lifeless. Right? So, the doctor, preoccupied with another set of worries, somehow cleared his mind and assured old lady that would no harm. And suddenly, they heard the voice of midwife calling upon them. Andrew saw that it's already 3:30 and that he shall begin with the procedure. Thus, he got up to the room upstairs, and it took almost an hour to perform the surgery, and it was a rather tough one. While the first rays of the daylight came inside from the corner of the window, the Morgan child was born. Unfortunately, the child was cold and still. So dear students, this was the second part, clearly finished we are, and definitely you will make the revision of this, as I hope so. Okay, and we will meet in the next video session with the final part. That will be our final part definitely. And so my dear students, up to the time, thank you, have a nice day.